There was a fart joke that made me laugh, but we'll get to that.
Okay, so yeah, my name is George, and with me here is Chris, and today we are looking at the movie Airplane Mode from 2016. Or no, it was shot in 2016, and it was released in 2019 because of the whole Japanese force controversy.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
He's Logan, he's got an Australian girlfriend, he goes on a plane, and then the plane is gonna crash because a bunch of influencers on board are douchebags and refuse to put their phones to airplane mode.
And that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
airplane, except with less plot somehow.
As I was writing my notes, it immediately started to sound really old man angry rant.
Yeah.
Right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to give it the benefit of the doubt in that I don't know any of these influencers, but that's because I'm not their target demographic,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not gonna judge the film based on the fact that it starts a bunch of influencers, if that makes sense. Instead, I'm gonna try to look at this as just any other film.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I kind of felt just like a cranky old man with
Yeah.
my notes, and I'll try to avoid that.
For example, when you were 14, what came out around that time?
I mean, I do remember excitedly renting Ballistic X vs. Sever and
Okay.
enjoying it, and that's supposed to be one of the worst movies ever made.
So it's clearly trying really hard to be like the Gen Z version of Airplane, but I feel like as Lisa Simpson once pointed out, anything that's the something of something isn't the anything of anything.
So I actually, for a second, was pretty into what was going on because I thought this credit sequence idea was actually kind of clever. I thought it was a good concept. First sign of trouble for me was that they threw in some jokes about racial profiling and so on. I thought that was an odd fit for this movie because I didn't think that was necessarily the type of subject matter that would fit with the type of comedy, and
Yeah.
that complaint will prove correct because I definitely continued to feel that way.
I don't mind it when a film, makes fun of or laughs at or does jokes about controversial subjects.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you take it all the way through or you stick with it consistently.
Yes.
There are a lot of crass movies, a lot of films with really brutal comedy that talks about really realistic stuff in a dark way, and it makes you laugh because they are laughing at the absurdity of the scenario, at the absurdity of the subject, at the fact that it even happens, and it laughs at the idiots, the perpetrators
Yes.
of those scenarios. But in this case, it never picks a direction, so are you with it or are you against it?
Yeah, I think you're right. These jokes can be super funny, and I think like the most obvious connection is Harold and Kumar too. Because it does basically the same sequences. Yeah, they're only funny if you carry them through, and just the mere fact that racial profiling exists is not in itself funny. So then we introduce Logan Paul as Logan. You can't avoid this guy. I've seen him around. I've never seen a video of him to my knowledge, so I didn't really know what to expect. I have to say, I think he actually did better than a lot of the people in this movie in terms of being like a spoof actor. I felt like I understood the appeal of Logan Paul in this movie. He's kind of like if a thumbnail was a guy.
That's a good way to put it.
I get it. I didn't super enjoy it, but I get it maybe.
One thing I kind of want to give credit to the movie for, which is that there are, how should I put this? You can clearly tell that there is effort being put in. Whether it's funny or not is not the point. It's that I can tell that there is elements of passion project in this.
One thing that I thought of a lot during these ones were the Friedberg and whatever the hell his name is, ones that kind of took over spoof movies in the 2000s of Date Movie and Epic Movie and Meet the Spartans and those truly terrible spoof movies. And this does feel like it had more energy and effort than those did. And that is good.
Whether a movie is good or bad, it's a lot of fucking work to put a movie together, especially when it's something you're not familiar with or that you don't have entire studios backing you up.
So there are worse things than just to do a million gags a minute and most of them miss and a couple of them make you laugh. I laughed at the Jerkins cream. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
It's stupid as hell, but I did think it was funny.
Let's do it!
I'm so fucking excited! And this scene right now is, I think, the beginning of a continuously annoying aspect of this film, which is there's so much screaming.
Even before the plane starts crashing.
Yeah. I feel like that is a fairly common sign of a bad comedy and bad comedic performers, is that they always default to just yelling and screaming, because to them, loud equals funny.
Yeah. And I definitely felt that during this movie. There are so many sequences, especially because the comedy framing is very standard, and you're watching these people work so hard and generate so much energy, and none of it's going anywhere because, like you're saying, like the basic comedy conceits of the scenes don't really work.
I think this really showcases the biggest weakness of this whole film. You can clearly tell these influencers or these people are used to creating content that's anywhere between few seconds long to minutes long at most, right? So their energy has to be really intense and really high for those regular content that they normally create. But it doesn't translate well to movies, and unfortunately, this seems to be all they know how to do.
Yeah, I think when you see a big group standing together like this, not all of them are on at the same time, and it just doesn't work.
Oh, shit! Logan!
I'm really confused. Why does falling off a tree make you afraid of flying on an airplane? Because that's two completely different mediums of travel. Does Logan Paul think airplanes travel by being thrown off a high place and just fall into its destination?
This was one area where I was really curious if I'm just too old, because the gross out humor, which is a big element all throughout, didn't really land for me, and I love gross movies.
Welcome to hell.
Con Air reference, good.
Yeah.
Introduction of Farva, bad for me. Yeah, I just wanted to say before we got away from it, there's this scene where girl's getting dropped off by her parents and she deeply tongue kisses both of them goodbye, and that was one of the jokes that made me laugh. I couldn't tell you why, but I thought it was really funny.
Now we're at the airport, the TSA, lineup scene, and there were so many references that I can tell were clearly meant to be references to memes and events of the time when this movie was made. But the problem is, even had this movie not been delayed, by the time the movie's done, those memes and jokes would have been out of date. Hollywood films are guilty of this, but with those ones, at least you can go, oh, it's just made by a bunch of dudes in suits who thinks, oh, what do kids like these days, right?
Yeah.
This is made by a group of those kids.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Definitely deported.
I thought maybe the racial profiling joke was just kind of a one-off thing in the beginning, but this is where, as they're going through security, I discovered it was just going to be like a running thing. And yeah, I mean, what we're looking at right now, and that's the joke. That's supposed to be a joke at the expense of racist policy, I guess. But at the same time, like you were saying, while they make this joke, they have this like stereotypical Mexican music playing. What side of this we were supposed to be on? And I think when you do comedy about some issues, you should probably pick a side.
Yeah.
And this is why I kept thinking of the 80s, because that's the last time I feel like I saw these jokes being done.
Whoever this person is, I commend her for her level of commitment in this fall.
One of the best slapstick gags. I agree.
Yes.
Fluffy haired Cub Scout. Oh.
Okay, so now, yeah, we're returning to a joke that really hasn't been funny for a few decades, which is, oh, look, a male stewardess, therefore he must be overtly gay. I'm guessing this is their attempt to recreate the control tower character in Airplanes. Yeah, so I remember when I was watching that movie, I went, okay, fine, it is of its time, so being gay itself is the joke. But there was a level of comedy in there because that actor was actually really funny in the way he delivered his lines.
And Leon's getting larger.
Are you looking at naked pictures on your phone?
No!
Oh yeah, I just wanted to talk about the meet cute here. So there is like a romantic subplot, which is not really even a romance. It's just like there has to be a leading man and a leading woman kind of subplot. But this is again a point where I was kind of thrown off, because they have this meet cute, they have romantic tension, and they do, in addition to all the stupid jokes, also do like kind of standard rom-com beats. And a romance does form between these two people, and they do try to they're eventually going to try to pay it off at the end as like, now they have a happy romance. And I was very confused if we were supposed to engage with those more serious elements at all? Like, were we actually supposed to find this a little bit cute and, like, be involved in this romance? Or are they just doing that just because that's, like, a thing that happens in movies?
Or maybe Logan Paul just really wanted to have a bunch of makeout scenes with her or something.
That could also make sense.
The camera keeps cutting to a bunch of people, giving them like dedicated screen time and dialogue. And I'm assuming these are all various influencers or various people popular at the time. And I'm guessing that it's meant for the target audience to go, ooh, I know that person, ha ha, look how great it is that they're there. If these cameos were not influencers, but rather a bunch of famous film actors in a regular movie, it would still be terrible because all it is the director going, look at all the famous people I know. It's actually what Ricky Gervais makes fun of in his show Extras. He specifically makes fun of that because his character is what Logan Paul is actually doing in this movie.
Because I guess you could have done the version of this movie where, like, it was Airplane and every single person on the plane is, like, a zany different character from a different walk of life, and then you have all these influencers play those different people.
Mm-hmm.
But then they wouldn't have been themselves. Then they would have just been non-actors playing comedy bits.
Yeah. So what this is, it's doomed to fail from the beginning. Which reminds me, if you're interested in listening to the full-length discussion of this episode, you can find it on our Patreon. The link is on screen and in the description down below. If you go over there, you will get the entire recording in an audio format like a podcast. Check it out, support us, help us keep doing this. We really appreciate it. Anyways.
So this is the big set piece of the movie, I guess. It's the comedic kickoff, and it's also, I assume, by far the most expensive shot in the movie. And the joke is that the influencers are all obnoxious, I guess. And we got these kind of tired jokes where we see, like, there's a pope, there are breasts randomly. It is the exact redux of the sequence from Airplane, which even has the boobs joke.
But the boob joke in Airplane is actually funny because they like made a point of like...
Yeah, the joke was that the boobs were shoehorned into the scene. Whereas here they just are shoehorned into the scene.
You know what this whole sequence reminded me of? And I mean, obviously it's reference to Airplane, but it also made me thought of the epic climactic shot in almost every Jackass movie.
Yeah, totally.
It's giving me that vibe, right? Because it's like the
yeah.
slow motion, but the fast camera, blah, 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 and everybody's doing something different. The thing is, with this one, if it was referencing Airplane or trying to be funny in the way that Airplane was with this kind of climatic shot, it's missing the point. If it was trying to do it the way Jackass did, it didn't go far enough.
You're right. Jackass is a perfect comparison because, all due respect always to amateurs who are trying to make movies, that's a good thing to do. But Jackass really shows what professionals can do when they set up like an insane, chaotic scene like this. You know, I guess the one little possibility here is that they are all specific to the person, but we don't know any of these people. Also, the plane fucks the clouds.
I feel like that would be funny. It should be funny, but it's not when this movie does it.
It was funnier when Peter Griffin was, like, fucking the tunnel with his giant car, because then they had a payoff where his car got destroyed and smushed his little car penis.
Dairy intolerant there, Rusky. How's that?
Oh, God. It goes on for so long.
What is the joke? That's what I wrote down here.
I think, the joke I'm assuming is about how awful this guy is.
Yeah. But is that funny? So he's an asshole, fair enough. Just seeing that doesn't seem to me funny. The idea of a joke is that there's a twist.
The one character that I can think of that is just perpetually asshole every time he's on screen, but is funny, is Ben Stiller's character in Dodgeball.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Ben Stiller's character White Goodman would relentlessly hit on Christine Taylor's character Kate, right? But every time he does it, every time a scene shows that, it would immediately follow up with a moment where he makes an ass of himself without realizing it. For example, he reads a dictionary, for example, and he thinks that is a way to show how smart he is.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. The thing that's missing here is that when you have an asshole character and you want it to be funny, you have to show that the people around them know that they're an asshole and that makes them like an ineffective and sad person in the wider context of the world. Like, this scene ends with him still just like having the power. He essentially wins the scene.
Yeah, if you end the scene with him winning, then you are supporting him. You're not making fun of him.
The plot does kick off in the sense that they find out the pilots are dead and they panic, and now they know they have a quest. Like, the plot does start, but this is really where I kind of lost all hope. Immediately became clear that other than like having that beat, they didn't have ideas for how to like have a plot after that point. And then Nick Swartzen squirts breast milk on a baby's face.
Think straight.
And I guess to my displeasure, that's also, I felt kind of like where we ended up with King Bach too, with the only black character in the movie. Are there more? It felt like the 80s because it was like, here's a gay guy that says gay guy stuff, and here's a black guy that says black guy stuff. 20 years after Not Another Teen Movie, we were back to just doing the joke straightforwardly that Not Another Teen Movie made fun of.
Yeah, actually, the gags after a certain point felt like they were just checking off a list. Like, we did this, as all comedy structurally should have, but they don't.
Yeah, and that can happen sometimes, I guess, if you have all your influences, you can fall into the trap of just being like, I want to do this from this movie, and I want to do this from this movie, and you don't necessarily think about your movie as much. Yeah, and I think this like big crashing sequence, this big emergency sequence, there's some more puke. Really just showed like the misuse of energy. Because this is the biggest sequence in the movie aside from the one big party shot. And it's some of the least funny. Because they had no characters to base the gags on, the gags have to just be random stuff like someone gets puked on. Airplane, stands in like direct contrast to this, is that when the big emergency sequence happens, every joke that you see happen as all the disaster is going on is related to a character that we already know and understand the wants and needs and vibe of. And that allows for funny jokes because you understand, oh, that's a disaster for that character.
Your sister said you're looking at anime porn again. She's lying.
Why not just say hentai?
I put on some hentai yesterday. Some classic. Oh god, I'm gonna butcher the title. Yuratsukidoji, Legend of the Overfiend. And we were watching that for a little while. It took less than 10 minutes to get to a tentacle-based sequence.
Okay.
That movie was a delight compared to this one.
You were watching it as a movie?
Yeah, we were just watching it.
Why?
It was very high intensity. It had a ton of visual interest. It was very visually dynamic. It had these crazy monsters and creature design.
Right.
We tapped out after the fifth or sixth sexual assault. We were like, okay, like it's enough. It was about like there's three worlds: the human world, the demon world, and the beast world. And then every 3,000 years, the Overfiend comes back, and he has 3 dicks because there's 3 worlds.
At this point, I stopped having notes because I just wrote like the rest of the movie is just people screaming a lot, and I tuned out.
As terrible as the first half was for just being a collection of gags, the second half for like having a like stop the terrorist plot and like all these fights and stuff was even worse. There were less jokes and there was less to enjoy. Oh yeah, by the way, the movie's still on for some reason. Like the plane lands an hour in or something, and then the movie just keeps going, which is like incorrect.
Yeah. I will.
Do you think he was really actually struggling with the bra here?
I hope so.
I felt like he really didn't know how to unhook a bra.
If so, the most relatable moment in the movie. Oh, I forgot about the height of comedy. She has a black dad, so there's a scary black father who interrupts the sex.
It just, okay. Yeah, it refuses to end for quite a while.
Like, I wanted to make jokes at this movie's expense more. I wanted to be, like, meaner. But I was kind of... If the worst thing that happens is a bunch of people get together and have a fun time making a movie, and then that movie is not any fun to watch, worse things have happened.
How do you want to rate this?
I'm gonna rate it Avatar: The Last Airbender. I feel like as successful a blockbuster Avatar was, that's how successful a comedy this was.
You are correct, because just like Avatar: Last Airbender movie, this also insulted a source material by making it significantly worse.
Yeah, I think you asked earlier about like being stuck on this plane with these people, and maybe that's the exact experience. Maybe if you get on a plane with Logan Paul, this is what it feels like.
Okay, that wraps up our review, I guess, of Airplane Mode. You better press a like and thumbs up because we had to watch this shit. Next week, what are we doing next week? Next week, we are doing Batman and Robin.
I just found out that the fucking new fucking Batman movie is fucking 3 hours long.
Oh no.
Why do they keep doing this to me? I just want to see a movie without taking a piss in the middle. Anyway.
Yeah. We're gonna watch the opposite of that, I guess. A short, campy, some would say terrible, other would say fun Joel Schumacher adaptation of Batman.
Everything freezes.